So going into Friday's card, I had won 20 out of 30 days, and my top-rated 15-dime releases, I was going for number 20 out of 29, including number 7 in a row in college basketball. And I decided to go with UTEP. And you know, if you've been getting my plays and my complimentary plays here in the video report, you know I've been riding the Miners, and why not? Going into yesterday's semifinal game against Middle Tennessee State, they had only covered 14 straight games. But it's a process. Listen, when I'm handicapping games, you know, there are boxes that I'm mentally ticking off. I pull the box scores for previous matchups. I go and check out to see what the beat writers have to say. I take into account how teams have been faring of late. And of course, going into that game, I had a UTEP team that not only had covered 14 straight games, but they had won 13 of their last 16 games overall. And they had handed Middle Tennessee State their only loss of the season, winning outright as an 11-point home dog about a month earlier. But the one little thing I forgot, the one little minuscule fact that I overlooked is this. Sometimes a team just wants to kick another team's ass in revenge, and that's exactly what the Blue Raiders did yesterday to UTEP. My God, did they destroy them. Now, listen, I'm not exactly going to complain because I've still won 6 of my last 7 best bets, and I'm still in a position of going for winning day number 21 out of 31 today. But, you know, when you're rolling, you don't think you're ever going to lose again. I mean, listen, do you ever go to the craps table and you're shooting and you think, oh, I think this is the roll I'm going to lose. I got to stop now. Nobody does that. But my God, you know, in retrospect, yeah, maybe it wasn't such a good play because, you know, Middle Tennessee State really wanted revenge. And you see that sometimes where a team just comes out hell-bent on getting revenge. And, well, that certainly worked against me yesterday. Today is an interesting day. Today is, to me, the worst day of the year when it comes to running these sites because it's also the most difficult day for all the handicappers because with the plethora of games that you have on Friday, you don't have many lines available early on Saturday morning. Now, listen, we can all sit here as handicappers and gamblers, especially, you know, and project what lines are. But as a handicapper who is releasing plays to customers, you know, making a projection is great. But when you have so many games without lines in the morning, you'd like to have an idea what the line is because you've got a handful of games that you're evaluating. And that best bet, like in my case, that best bet, well, I'm waiting to pull the trigger because I want to see what the lines are among all that little handful of games I've got. And the other guys are in the same situation. But most of these lines are not available until about 10:30, 11 o'clock Eastern time. So that's why today's video report is late. That's why the handicappers today, early in the morning, you saw the plays being released in drips and drabs, and you saw the promos that are now fully available on the homepage, taking forever to get out there as well. But hey, listen, I've got the plays for you here today. The complimentary plays, taking a look at Cincinnati-Connecticut, Villanova-Creighton, Nevada, and Colorado. And let's start them because they're all relatively late games on the afternoon card. Let's start here. I just want to run these in reverse chronological order. Villanova. I am not surprised that the Wildcats, after blowing out a bad St. John's team a day earlier, really struggled against Seton Hall yesterday. Because remember, last year, excuse me, guys, I get choked up talking about this. Last year, Seton Hall pulled the upset of Villanova in the Big East tournament. Did it stop the Wildcats from going on and winning the big dance? No, it did not. But Seton Hall had been playing well, and the Pirates gave Villanova all it can handle yesterday, 55-53, the final score, as the Wildcats had to rally from 11 points down. Fewest points scored in a game this season. Josh Hart, one of their seniors, scored 12 of their final 16 points, including the three-pointer, with 9.6 seconds to go for the win in that game. But I think that this team, that has the most successful senior class in Villanova basketball history, led by Josh Hart, led by Chris Jenkins, led by Darryl Reynolds. I say that this team that last year denied the Big East tournament championship gets it today with the win and cover against Creighton, a team that they beat twice during the regular season. Remember, on New Year's Eve, they went into Omaha when Creighton was at full strength before they had lost their starting point guard in mid-January to a season-ending knee injury. I think Creighton was 10-0 at the time, and Villanova found itself down in a 10-point hole early, but they came back. They won that game 80-70. Shot 50.2% in that game and took advantage of Creighton's biggest problem. Even though they had Patton, the freshman in the middle, they're not a good rebounding team. Villanova hammered them on the boards 37-22. Then in the rematch at home on February 25th, Villanova who I think was coming off a loss to Butler in their previous game, which ended their long campus winning streak at home at their Pavilion facility. And this was, I think, the final game at their Pavilion campus facility before they decide to close it and have renovations that are keeping them off campus for the next year or so. They won that game 79-63. Yeah, matter of fact, that was because it was my 15-dime best bet winner. I just remembered 2 Sundays ago. I used Villanova over Creighton. Hey, listen, when you're on a winning streak, even the wins, you start to forget who the hell you won on. In that game, they shot 22 free throws versus just 6 for the Blue Jays. Again, not a big surprise because the Blue Jays do not have a big game, an interior post presence, even though they have the big freshman. And it was an impressive win for Villanova because they were basically playing a 6-man rotation because Darrell Reynolds had missed 5 straight games with a rib injury. He's probably their biggest post presence for the Wildcats. Well, he is back. In that game, they shot about 53%, and Creighton only shot 43%. So when looking at the box scores for the 2 meetings this season, I saw that in the 2 games, Villanova out-rebounded them by 20 and went to the line 35 times versus 13 for Creighton. I don't see those metrics changing here today. Yes, the Blue Jays beat Xavier 75-72. Big deal. What did the Musketeers do in the second half of the season? And then they beat Providence 70-58. Okay, the Friars had won 6 straight games coming into the tournament, but I thought they were a paper team anyway, meaning I didn't think they were that good on the court. And they needed a game-winning 3-pointer from Marcus Foster to beat Xavier with 8 seconds to go. So I like Villanova minus the points in that one. I like Cincinnati, another 9.5-point favorite, even more than Villanova, even though Cincinnati is playing in Connecticut, in Hartford, basically in the Huskies' backyard, to make it 3 straight wins against the Huskies this season. Semifinals yesterday, Cincinnati took care of business 80-61 over Tulsa. 35-27, a rebounding advantage led to 19 second chance points for the Bearcats because they had 13 offensive rebounds as well. It was a wire-to-wire route pretty much, so the Bearcats, who are a very deep team, Mick Cronin can go about 9 players deep there. Nobody played more than 29 minutes in that game. Now, the Bearcats won at Connecticut in the final week of the regular season, 67-47. They won at home earlier in the year. It was 82-68 in early February. They dominated on the boards in both of those games. I think they're going to do that once more in this one. I don't care that the Huskies beat Houston 74-65. Huskies are a team led by Jalen Adams, their guard. They don't have much size. They don't have much depth. Houston, the team that they beat, showed repeatedly on the road this year that they couldn't play outside of the state of Texas. Yesterday, they shot only 41%. And listen, before beating South Florida, which everybody beats South Florida this year, in their home finale, Connecticut had lost 4 straight games. So beating South Florida and Houston in their last 2 games, that doesn't impress me. I think Cincinnati is undervalued here. I thought Cincinnati would be a 12.5 to 13-point favorite. And I came this close to making Cincinnati my best bet today instead of the game that I ultimately chose. Your final complimentary play, I like Nevada in the Mountain West Conference Championship game against Colorado State. This is a rematch of a game played last Saturday on Nevada's home floor, which gave the Wolfpack the Mountain West Conference regular season title when they beat Colorado State in that one at home, 85-72. Both of these teams had to rally for double-digit deficits in yesterday's semifinal games as Nevada had to come back and take care of business against Fresno State, a Fresno State team that really had their number during the regular season. Bulldogs beat them twice, but they beat them yesterday 83-72. Shot the lights out in the second half of that game, almost 80% from the field. And that's Nevada's MO. They are a very good offensive team. Colorado State is a better defensive team. Yesterday, they were locked in a defensive battle with San Diego State, a team that makes you look bad just because of the way the Aztecs play defense. Well, San Diego State had to rally from 13 points down. They did so. They did win that game 71-63. I think in this particular contest, you've seen the line go from 5.5 to 4.5. It's back up to 5 as I do this video report. I just think Nevada is to play in this particular spot. Listen, Nevada has an inherent advantage as well. It's at the Thomas and Mack Center. They played a couple of games here in the tournament. They played, of course, UNLV and beat the hell out of the Rebels in Nevada as well. it is their home state, right? I mean, so they certainly are going to have the crowd behind them as opposed to Colorado State's cheering section. So I like Nevada in this spot as Nevada seeks to get its big dance ticket punched for the first time in, wow, over a decade. I think 2005, 2006 was probably the last time. One more thought here about a game which goes, let's see, what time does it go? It goes at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Minnesota and Michigan, and we all know the Michigan story with the plane mishap, with the two stirring victories, beating up Illinois after arriving late for their opening round game, and then, of course, the overtime game yesterday against Purdue. I'm just wondering here, is this now the time that the emotion, the raw energy, it all expires? Is today Cinderella's slipper no longer fits for the Michigan Wolverines? It's not like Minnesota is chopped liver. Minnesota delivered in double revenge yesterday against Michigan State. This Minnesota Gophers team has won 9 of its last 10 games. Minnesota snapped the 9-game series losing streak by beating Michigan at home just 2 weeks ago, a game in which they blew an 8-point lead in the final couple of minutes of regulation, but they had to go to overtime, but they managed to get the game. And the reason that Minnesota beat Michigan is because they dominated on the boards. Listen, Minnesota's the number 1 rebounding team in the Big Ten. Michigan is dead last. You're talking about Minnesota averaging almost 11 more rebounds per game. You dominate the boards, you help your fast break, or more importantly, you get more second chance opportunities and you get more opportunities to go to the free throw line. Now, Minnesota is not going to dominate at the free throw line like they did in the meeting back in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago, because obviously they got the benefit of some home call whistles, because in that game, Minnesota went to the line 41 times and Michigan only 18. But I still think that Minnesota is going to have the inherent advantage here because, again, when you're going to work the ball in low, you're going to have more fouls called against your opponent. And Michigan doesn't have any interior post play. And you saw how Minnesota yesterday managed to take care of business against Michigan State by using their superior size. Reggie Lynch yesterday, big game, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 5 blocks against Michigan State in the win at home against Minnesota. He only played like 13 minutes, but he had 11 points and 8 rebounds in that one. I know Minnesota lost Akeem Springs, one of their starting guards, to an Achilles tendon injury yesterday. But he's a valuable player. He's a senior. He's one of their co-captains. But this is a good Minnesota team. And I just think that Michigan, third game and third day, I just have this feeling that the wrong team is favored here. Michigan is a 4-point favorite because I think the public is so wrapped up with the Wolverines. And I think Minnesota is the play here, plus the 4 points. So listen, that's another free pick, but you didn't advertise it as one because this video report is so close to the tip-off, but I do like Minnesota as well. So that'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again on Sunday when we do this again.